hey, oh, hey, la hooking, yo, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, a suite say a song, ni cause a suite, hey, oh, way, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, way, oh, hey, hey, da, ya, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, da, ho, hi, ya, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Hey, la hooking, yo, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. A suite say a song, cause a suite, hey, oh, way, oh, hi, hey, oh, hi, hey, oh, hi, way, oh, hi, hey, hey, da, ya, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hi, ya, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Paleo, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Um, Again, thank you for having me. Again, my name is John Scott-Richardson, for those who may have joined us a little late there. Beautiful land acknowledgement read by Celia. This is something that is, and she read about what a land acknowledgement actually means. And basically, that is very important because a lot of times a land acknowledgement can be just an empty statement, right? I mean, it can be a political thing to do, the correct thing to do, but for a land acknowledgement to indigenous people, it means that how can I be of active service to help you, right? So when the thought process, when we go to a community, traditionally, we would say, I am a guest of yours. I am here to help you. What can I assist you with, right? It may be, you know, you need manpower, you need resources, or whatever the case may be. That is what a land acknowledgement to traditional indigenous people means. So in bringing it forward in a modern day context, when we think about land acknowledgement, okay, what resources do we not have access to, right? That can be shared. To, again, being equal, I think this day and age, we pretty much see ourselves as equal. So equality is not so much the caveat right now. The caveat is more about equity, right? Because equity means that you get resources based on your need, right? Not so much just everybody getting 1/4 across the board, because my resource, my deficiency may be greater than yours. So in order to bring me up to a level that is equal, right? So that's what equity really is to me. The maybe a missing element in some cases, and that's one of the things I like to think about, right? And so, just to give you a brief overview of my presentation that I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of share a little bit about Lenape Hoken, which is Mannahatta, which is the traditional name, which have many tribes have come through this area. We have the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. You also have the Abenaki, Canarsie, Marsapeake, Settacock, Shetlacock, Montauk, Munsee, and you also have the Wampachur and Okachug, Taino. There have been many nations of people that have come through Mohican, this area, which is now known as Manhattan, and these islands are that are around here. And so we always like to think about that, because even though the Lenape they don't have a reserve here in this area right now, they've been displaced to other areas, right? Or like Oklahoma, Canada, out Minnesota area. So these are some of the things that we think about, because these areas were trade lands, right? You had areas in this, which is now in Manhattan. You had Cherry Street. You also had Bowling Green. You had Park Avenue. You had Astor Place. You had Pearl Street. All of these areas were areas where intertribal relations took place, right? And if you think about the history of Manhattan and some of these areas that are still here, you don't think about that these were once areas where indigenous people gathered from as far away as Virginia, as far away as Ohio, upstate, up in Canada. They have all come to this area, right? Because it, again, if you think about the wealth if you think about New York as being like the center, think about it way back before, European contact, before the Dutch came, right? And so that's some of the things that we want to kind of keep in our mind today when we think about these things. Now, there's a slide you all may see, and this slide is going to be moving and changing all through the process of me talking. But basically, what this slide is, it is showing how the original tribes or the covered the land masses here in what is now called the United States, right? And so some of these, if you look at how post contact, you start to see like a disintegration or a movement going from east to west. And this really only happened in the last 200 years, okay? So this land erasure due to expansion, due to manifest destiny, actually forced into reservation area or lands. And so this showing this land decrease also shows expansion in cities and things like that starting to increase and develop, right? So in this 200-year time, it's really less than that. You have natural resources that are also being sought after, right? So there's a gold rush, there's a gold expansion, all right? And there's also the expansion for forestry, for agriculture. There's also the mining for various materials like coal and also diamonds and gemstones, things of that nature. You also see a lot of mining done for, like uranium and different things like that. Okay. Now, all of this stuff taking place is actually putting more strain on the land. So as you see, also for oil, right? You're looking for oil. All of these type of things are putting strain on the land. So as the population grows, these types of challenges that the land has to absorb also grows, right? And then you also look at how we once were about 30,000 plus indigenous communities throughout this area. And this was all pre-contact, which was roughly about 3,000 or more language dialects, right? So all of these things have a correlation, right? In an indigenous viewpoint, we don't view things in a linear term. We see things in a collective nature, right? So we see all of these things affecting one another in some type of relationship way, right? So as the tribes start to get smaller, the manifest destiny and expansion westward starts to grow. You also see the loss of tribal community, right? You see the loss of language. You also see the loss of the land being used for the communal aspect of agriculture and how it was used to support those communities, to now where it's becoming more industrialized, right? So those resources now are being used to now fuel the industrial system, which then also fuels the capitalistic system, right? So now you start to create people that become dependent less on the land, become more dependent on the system, and are more dependent on capitalism for their survival, right? So it becomes this is an old story that I was once told, that there was this little blob or this little beast that was created, and it was a joyful beast and it was fun, and it started to eat up trees and started to eat things. And eventually the tribal people had to feed it in order to keep it happy, right? But unfortunately, what happened is once you start to feed something, it starts to grow. And then it started to need more to eventually where it actually ended up consuming everything around it, right? And the next thing it was looking at was starting to look at consuming the actual human beings because there were no resources left, right? So that's sort of how this system is that we're dealing with on our planet today. And that's sort of the way I view it, as well as some of the elders that I've talked with and been able to share with. But if you think about in this area of the East, the biodiversity that was so great here when first contact with trees just as large as some of the cottonwoods and redwood trees in California or in the West Coast, right? I mean, you look at some of the trees now that are upstate New York area or a little further up in New England, and you might be looking at maybe a second or third generation planting of some of the original trees, and the ones that are there now are pretty large. But you think about how huge things were when people first came to the shores to come in contact with indigenous people. And so those are some of the things when I think you think about land erasure and you think about tribal people being moved and forced and actually, some forms of genocide occurred in these areas. It shows a direct correlation to how the challenges the world has to face now. The planet has to absorb these things, right? And I kind of look at us like little trees, right? This is the analogy that I use a lot when I'm presenting. And if you think about it, if we clap our hands, everybody on this video, we clap our hands and we rub them real briskly together like this, what do you feel? You feel heat begin to develop, right? Now that's one attribute that we have. Just like a tree, if you use that wood to burn, you create heat, right? The other thing is that when we breathe out air. We breathe out what is CO2, right? And that tree breathes out oxygen. So take a deep breath in and breathe out. Okay, we're doing exactly what the tree does, right? Then the next thing is, if you're thinking you're standing on the ground, your 2 feet, those 2 feet are firmly planted on the ground, just like our tree's roots are firmly planted in the earth. So you stand strong as a human being, right? Just like a tree. And you draw your substance from the earth, your food, your water, right? Those are all vital things that keep you living, just like that tree. Now, I've been told that there are trees that the roots were so deep that they had so much moisture in that tree that those trees would withstand fires. If you think about all the fires that are happening out in our western part of our country, those trees burn up like matchsticks now because there's not enough moisture in those trees because those trees are not planted deeply into the earth, right? So, I mean, I know that there's so many things that the tree does. It helps hold the earth together. It helps, keep from erosion. It helps keep mudslides from happening. Again, it gives our oxygen that we need to the air. And it provides so many things to the planet, to the animals, to our relatives, to us. And so the fourth thing is, if you take and stretch your arms out like this, right? What do we look like? We look like a tree with our branches stretched out to the heavens, right? To where that sun comes and gives us nourishment. So those are all 4 things that relate us to the tree. These are things that my elders have shared with me that I want to share with you, because it's these basic common thoughts of how we see ourselves that help us to be mindful of how we walk on Mother Earth, right? And how we respect things around us. I know we need certain things to live and we need certain things to maintain our existence, but there is a natural balance that we can find. I think about this program and I think about, how we're constantly fighting, right? We're constantly looking for, ways to protect. And Earth Day is a good thing. It's a good reminder, but this is an everyday, it's an every minute process. Um, I was fortunate enough to be a part of an event called Drums Along the Hudson. There's a slide that'll pop up probably in reference to that in a moment. And at this event, it references all of it brings the drums from all different cultures to the public. And basically, the message is how we should care for the earth and how we should walk on the earth, right? There was a ceremony done there a few years ago where the Dalai Lama came and he had a chance to meet with one of our traditional elders, Mr. Tom Porter, Mohawk Nation, and they planted a white pine tree, which is representative to the Iroquois people, which is also where we got our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution foundations from, is the Iroquois Confederacy. Tom Porter actually had a grandfather that actually was the one that met with Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin in 1776, I believe it was, or 1746, and met with them to discuss this, right? So I'm not just bringing this up out of the air. This is oral history, which is just as valid as institutionalized history. And so I like to always share that perspective, right? And so Tom was sharing with me that when this great tree of peace, basically what it represents is that at one time the Iroquois nation was at war with itself, with other tribal communities, right? And Hiawatha, which is a visionary, he actually was one that came to the communities and said, look, in order for us to continue to live and survive, we're going to need to come to peace. And so basically what they did is that they dug a hole, and representatives from those tribal communities came and brought their arms and placed them in this hole, and they planted a white pine tree there to grow. And as that tree grew, it was to represent that we are unified in coming together. We're no longer going to be at war with one another. And this tree is going to give us shade. It's going to give us protection. And so and there's a great painting about that, where you see the bear and the deer, the otter, and different animals coming together under that tree. And on top of that tree is an eagle, right? The eagle is the bird that can fly the highest out of any bird that is on this planet. And that eagle has that vision to see over all of this, right? And that is the representation why they use the eagle. And a little fact that some people may not know, but the bird, I know the bird for the United States is an eagle, but at one time they were going to consider, did anybody know what the bird they were going to consider? At one time they were going to consider a turkey. And the reason they thought about the turkey is because, first of all, the turkey is, it's a pretty established bird. It has beautiful feathers and beautiful colorings, but it doesn't fly very high. And it can fly probably about the height of the treetops, but it doesn't fly very high. And so, but when they saw the representation of how indigenous people viewed the eagle, they thought it was a great thing to adopt the eagle as the national bird, right? So, I mean, we think about the influences of Native American culture, indigenous culture here in the United States, which is now known as the United States, is so prevalent that, again, it's not taught as, as a main subject in schools. It is, it's taught sometimes as an elective, or it's taught to supporting other history of other areas. That is one of the things that I want to kind of take a moment to talk about. And that is that, you can't discover a land already inhabited, right? I want to go back, right? So the story of Columbus discovering us, already a civilization, active, thriving, that's a misnomer to begin with, right there. But a lot of times, what the Western institution like to try to do is to try to say that once they got here, that history started with them moving forward. That is not correct, right? It may be a continuation of history and how that interaction took place, but it is not a beginning point, right? It is just a continuation of what actually was happening, right? And so, that also leads into the doctrine of discovery, right? This is the doctrine that was mandated from the Papal Council to go forth and discover lands. And in that, anyone that did not follow Christianity, Catholicism, or however you title it, were deemed less than, right? Or not equal to. And therefore, they had dominion over the land because they had this mandate. So you have this doctrine that has actually been part of the fabric of establishing this United States, and it's interwoven in every document that has come forth from that point of time. So if you think about, again, the 13th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution doesn't support, disenfranchises others, right? So that, and again, this is all part. Again, I like to look at the full system of expansion, right? Of growth, of industrialization, right? Because there's also a time frame that also supports the land erasure, and that time frame is like around the early 1700s. You had the development of electricity, right? You then had the development of the engine, right? Then after that, you had the development of, say, the thing that actually helped win wars, which was the repeating rifle or the automatic rifle, right? Then you had the development of dynamite, which actually helped open up mountains to increase railroad, expansion across the continent. You also had things like barbed wire, which is relatively insignificant in the mindset, but it actually helped to block off certain areas and block areas where they did not want people to go, right? Then you had the invention of radio waves in the late 1800s. Broad communication starts to take place, right? So if you look at all of that going on, and then land loss and the shrinking of indigenous people here in the continent, you see how things could get out of balance very fast, right? And again, this all goes back to how we learn the original instructions, because that's what Tom Porter, when we plant that great tree of peace, he talks about the original instructions that were given from the Creator on how to live on Mother Earth, how to care for Mother Earth, right? How to live in harmony with the animals that supported us, right? And to never take more than we need, right? Because there is plenty for everyone. Okay. And so, it's just, Earth Day is very large. It is very impactful. You think about some of the things, the advancement of society today, and how much medicine we have, and how much, just thinking living in a pandemic, a lot of us never thought we would see a time like this happen, at least in our lifetime. And we remember the time back during 1918, when they had that big flu epidemic, and of course, I have relatives and people that had ancestors that lived through the smallpox and whooping cough and those type of things that came upon these lands. So this is not something new. This is something that is a continuation. And of course, this time, because we are a global community, we are a global world, that's how it has affected us. It just wasn't here in the US. It just wasn't over in Italy. It just wasn't in, certain islands. It has affected us as a whole. And so now we are looking at a point where, okay, how do we rebuild? How do we, move forward? And my thought process is we move forward as a community, right? It's not it should not be about race relations. It should not be about economic relations. It should be about how, as a community of people, of human beings, can we move forward? Because we know that everything we do affects someone else and something else. So it's about living together in a sustainable way, right? And I look at, we have people that are still in our communities fighting for, land. They're trying to protect grave sites, and they're trying to protect sacred sites, and they're trying to keep pipelines from expanding, and more damaging of the earth down in Louisiana with oil spills and all of these things that are happening continuously. And and again, it's all for big money. It's all for oil. It's all for economics. There are tons of things that we could, I would say, live a little bit uh, less on the high hog and more on, as they say. I'm from the South a little bit, so and just and share these resources with people, and it's just it just kind of makes me think. I'm just gonna right now, I'm gonna open it up in a few minutes. I know my time is moving on, and I want to open it up for Q&A briefly. Um, but I just want to sing a real quick song. This is a water song that was gifted to me by a lady by the name of Dawn Avery. She's a singer. You can look her up, and she has she's Iroquois. She's Mohawk, and she's been doing a lot of translation of the songs and recording some of the old songs. There's just a brief song to give thanks to the water that I want to sing real quick. Long way, way, Nawa got me going, young way, Nawa got me going, young way, Nawa got me going, young way, Nawa got me going. Ya 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 hey ya yahoo. And so I want to again thank you for allowing me to be a part of your event. It's a beautiful event, and I'm here. If anybody ever needs any help with anything, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. If you want to drop them in the chat or speak out loud, it doesn't matter. I'm listening and reading.
Thank you so much for those gifts of your songs and to Dawn Avery. We really appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions of John? You just feel free to unmute yourselves. That's fine. And Selena's in the chat, like, just show some love. I'm looking. I'm looking. Oh, so I have a anonymous question, and it says, "Do you have recommended resources to further our knowledge around supporting Indigenous voices on Earth-centered activities? On Earth-centered activities."
Yes. Well, you can always, there's a local resource that is great, which is the Lenape Center, which Joe Baker, Lenape gentleman there, he has extensive research that is available there, and we here at Amarinda, American Indian Arts, we have information on the art movement, the Native Indigenous art movement here in New York City, spanning over 30 years. Um, and that's also very important because a lot of times people don't really realize the influence of American Indian art in New York. And so that's one. There's also, of course, your several museums that have information as well. I can provide some links to things that there's a museum up in the Iroquois Nation that has a lot of resources as well. I'm good friends with the gentleman that's the director there. Um, and also, there's a lot of information out in Shinnecock and that area with resources as well, documenting the history of Long Island. Um, there's countless of places around. I'll be glad to forward things to you guys so you guys can send them out to your constituency.
That would be amazing if you can just forward those resources. I also put up for everyone again to see that Drums Along the Hudson is hosting an event on Sunday, June 6th. It's free admission. Come along. I'm going to be there with my family. Selena's going to be there too. But just a wonderful event. I want to see that tree, John, that you mentioned in your talk. So
Yeah,
I'm very
yeah,
excited to be
absolutely.
there. So does anyone
It's getting
else?
pretty big.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, look, Tishma Peck wants to know what's your favorite herb grown by Mother Earth. Oh, thank you,
My
Tishma.
favorite herb. Well, we can't live without our sage.
Thank you. Hello.
But you know that there is a shortage, there is a scarcity now of actually good sage. So
Wow.
I encourage everyone to get seeds and start growing their own, because there's been so much mass cropping of sage that it's become scarce in some places. And so, yeah,
Yeah, don't buy no fake stage. Send us a good resource where we can get some. I have another question coming in, and that is what is the reaction of Native Americans to the racial uprisings happening in our country?
well, first of all, I mean, it is, you know, it's something that is sad because, traditional people always view each other as human beings, right? We've never seen, there's no traditional word in our culture for this group or that group. They're always like, and so Iroquois would be say Akwianwe, which basically means the people, right? So we didn't divide in individuals that way. And so to think race is just a social construct technically, right? There may be some phenotypes and difference of DNA here and there, whatever, arguably so, whatever. But to divide people based on race and gender has always been a construct to divide resources, right? Or to have to systematically put certain policies in place where people would
Get it, John.
have to apply for this based on their race or based on how they are, and those all of those labels are just ways, a convoluted type of way to just keep us from enjoying the abundance that everybody should have the right to share just because you're a human being, right? That is the most important thing. And that's one of my elders, go back, named John Trudell, would always say that a lot of times people have forgotten that we are just simply human beings, right? Bottom line, right? Regardless of how someone may appear or how they talk. Like I talk weird being here, but because I'm from North Carolina, but
Yeah, we
in
hear
New
that. We
York,
hear your accent. That's the first thing I
you
asked
know,
John when we were talking before this event, when we were first talking. John, you're not from around here. Southern drawl. You probably say the same thing to me if I were to go to North Carolina. Well, I appreciate that answer, and it's so true about race being a social construct that that didn't exist on this side of the world, and so really
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that. Um, any other questions before we let John go? Well, John, I look forward to, as people are thinking, I look forward to receiving these resources. I want to thank you so very much, especially for your music. If you have a Spotify playlist, is there anything that we need to follow? Please send it over to us. We also, I feel like this is not the last time that I'm going to see you at Good Shepherd Services. And so I want to thank you. Everyone, let's stop the spotlight and let's see each other because I got to see him. Everybody, show them the Good Shepherd claps. Woohoo! John, you were amazing. Stay safe, healthy. Oh, look, he threw
Thank
up
you.
his. Oh, you look at you. Stay safe, healthy, and kind. You're welcome to stay. But right now, I am going to move this over to Selena, who is going to take over from this point forward.
Thank
John,
you.
thank you. Mad love, mad
Well,
love.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much, John. We are so happy that you were able to join us today and that we were able to just hear your words and your music. I know I feel so fulfilled right now. And also, I just feel like I'm filled with so much education and so much like just to process and think about. But we're going to move on to talk about the art gallery for a little bit. I wrote down a little spiel or a little speech. So first, I want to start by giving a big round of applause or hearts or love to all the artists who are here right now and all the artists in general who submitted to the gallery. So everyone, I don't know, the clapping emojis, write it in the chat, give some hearts out, show some love. So when Cece and I were first thinking about what to do for Earth Day and how to celebrate our living land acknowledgement, I immediately thought of trying to do something with art and healing. For me, as much as I am a city girl at heart, I am a nature lover in my soul. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to and kudos to Dani DeLade, who co-authored our theme and gallery description. So again, give some love to Dani right now. After Cece and I created the idea to do a gallery, the first person I thought of was Dani to call and see if we can make this idea a reality. So shout out Dani. And Dani's going to do an exercise with us later, so you can show them some love after. So if you read the gallery description, I hope you can tell that a lot of thought went into this event and went into this gallery. Dani and I wanted to talk about the environment as not just the rolling hills or the green pastures that we typically think of. We also wanted staff and participant artists to think of our local environments in New York City that are just as important as the other typical nature things we think of. Sometimes the best getaway from the city is just closing your eyes and taking a breath of fresh air from the scattered sidewalk trees or laying in the grass in one of our neighborhood parks. So we're going to get on. I'm going to show you guys the gallery, but I want to reiterate some of the questions we posed to the artist. And some of the questions we posed were, how do we honor Indigenous people or our ancestors who have come before us? How can we listen more deeply to Mother Earth or Haki? What promises or commitments can we make beyond Earth Day? How can we extend our GSS values in relationship with the Earth? So I'm going to show you the gallery. One more shout out to Trisha Blanchard for helping us put the gallery on the GSS website. I'm going to share with you all the website link after I show it to you all here, so you can continually look back and see everyone's art. But I just want to shout out Trisha. Thank you so much for helping us out on the back end with the tech. So the moment you've been waiting for, everyone, I'm presenting this year's gallery. Can everyone see this? Can I get a thumbs up that you're seeing this screen? Awesome. So as you can see, we have just like a welcoming into the gallery. We have the living land acknowledgement. And then we have the list of artists and poets. And I just want to say, we had a small turnout, but that's something to celebrate. I think it's a great start to have, I think, 7 artists and one poet join us and submit art into this gallery. And I want to thank all of them for just submitting art. And we have poetry by Jamil Thomas. I wish Jamil was here today. I would have loved if he could have read his poem, but you all can read his poem when I send you the link. And then here is the beautiful gallery. Just scroll down. So this first piece is called Mother Earth by Shari Bailey. Everyone can show some love, give some hearts. I'll go through one by one and say the titles and artist. The next one is by our very own Dani DeLade, Putting the Pieces Together. This one, I think John Pierre is here. If you want to like show yourself to say hi, but this is by John Pierre. The next one is by Aaron Martinez. And again, this is staff and participants. Like, we had a great turnout of both staff and participants submitting art. So I'm just really happy and so fulfilled by all of the participants. The next one is by Marissa Medley. And I think this is the last one. This is by Vetha Valentine. So if everyone, again, I keep saying round of applause, but share some love, keep sharing some love to all the artists. Thank you so much.
That's so beautiful, y'all. That is amazing. Wow.
Yes. I'm going to add a spotlight to you, Cece. But I just want to invite any artists who are here today. If anyone wants to say hi and if anyone wants to talk about their art, I'm going to send the link right now to the webpage so all of you can get the first exclusive look of the webpage itself. And then we're going to send out a whole mass email to all of GSS. So GSS, everyone can see the art gallery throughout the next weeks. If any artists want to speak up, I'll give you a little moment. But no worries, no worries.
Unmute yourselves. Tell us about your piece of art because those were so beautiful. I would like to know the story, you know, like to some of those. So please don't be shy.
I think you guys caught me on my first shy moment.
Is that Shari?
It's Shari.
Shari, that's gorgeous. What? Okay. Oh my God, look at that,
yo. So I mean, I was just kind of scrolling through. So GSS had posted that they were looking for art for Earth Day, and really I use art as a way to do self-care. And so my niece just took it. Apparently she wants it. But yeah, and so I just started sketching and that came to me and then I, painted it and whatnot. So I was just happy to be a part of it. I really enjoyed today. Really grateful for John and just happy to share my creative side with GSS. So yeah.
Yay!
Shari, I swear you have so many talents. It's unbelievable. May you always be blessed. And those hands and that mind, you're just so beautiful. Thank you for that.
And there's so much love in the chat. Check out the chat. Everyone is giving you love. So thank you so much. Yeah, and hopefully this isn't the last time we do an art activity in GSS. I think this was, again, just the beginning. I mean, 7 people for the first ever art event ever. So we hope that we can keep going and keep growing and continue to heal with art.
Yes, art is so very healing, and hopefully next year it'll be even better. So thank you for all of those, including our program participant John Pierre. That was awesome and beautiful. And so speaking of healing and art, I'd like to invite Dani up to the scene. Hey Dani, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Should I share mine or my screen? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to lead us through a little activity. I hope it brings you all some relaxation, some joy before the weekend. So I saw this poem recently on the subway. So it's one of the more recent subway poems. And I thought it was just great to get us started, bring some poetry into the space. And I was so happy to see that there was a poet that submitted for the gallery. Also, I can't wait to read it. So here is a poem called Smelling the Wind by Audre Lorde. Rushing headlong into new silence, your face dips on my horizon. The name of a cherished dream, riding my anchor, one sweet season to cast off on another voyage. No reckoning allowed, save the marvelous arithmetics of distance. And I chose this because we're going to do some creative writing today. But before we do that, I have a little guided visualization that I'm going to take you through. And you don't need to participate in this for the activity. So if this isn't something that you want to participate in, you don't have to. You can just sit back and, you can turn off your camera or just like take a moment. And I'll just let you know what a guided visualization is so you know what to expect. There'll be some breathing in it, but mostly it's kind of like what it says. I'm going to guide you through a visualization in a landscape using the senses. So what I want you to do is to pick a landscape. And we're going to kind of go on a journey. And so it's also why I picked that poem, because she talks about a voyage. So we're going to kind of journey to this land in our minds and pick a landscape that's meaningful to you, something that makes you feel safe, comfortable, or brings you joy. It could be a landscape that you visited before. It could be a landscape or a land that you used to live on, or it can be totally something just from your imagination, something that you make up, or a place that you like to go to bring you relaxation. So you can just start to get comfortable, and I'm going to begin the visualization. And, comfortable, however that means for you, but it might be beneficial to put your feet on the ground for this one. And you can close your eyes if that's something that you feel comfortable with. If you want to turn off your camera for a second, you can. And so just begin to close your eyes if that feels right for you. And I want you to put yourself in the landscape that you chose, and just start to take a moment to envision it based on your memories or your imagination. And next, I invite you to look down. What land are you on? Whose land are you on? And take a breath, and as you breathe in, honor the land. And what kind of land are you on? Are you standing on sand, grass, dirt, stone? How does the earth feel beneath your feet? Is it soft or hard? Do you have shoes on, or are you barefoot? Can you feel the texture of the earth? Is the ground cold or warm to the touch? What else can you feel on your skin? Can you feel the sun? Is there a breeze? What is the temperature in your landscape? And take another breath in. And as you breathe in, what do you smell? Take a few breaths to breathe in your landscape. And what do you hear in your immediate surroundings and off in the distance? Begin to lift your eyes from the ground. What do you see right in front of you? What is to the left? And to the right? What is behind you? Look up at the sky. Is it daytime? Nighttime? Do you see clouds or stars? Look out the horizon. What do you see? Look as far as your eyes can see and take in your entire landscape. And just take the next moment to enjoy your landscape in silence before you leave. So start to just awaken your body again, maybe wiggling your toes, moving in your seat. And when you feel comfortable, if you had your eyes closed, you can open your eyes. You can turn on your cameras if you turned off your cameras. And I'll give everybody a second to rejoin. And for anybody who just joined, I put in the chat that, it's okay if you missed part of this. You'll definitely still be able to participate in the next part. And so here's our activity. We are going to write a letter to the landscape that we just visited in our minds. And this could be a love letter. This could be a gratitude letter. It could be a I miss you letter. Whatever feels right for you in relationship to this land that you chose. And for the next, I think about 8 minutes, we'll have a chance to write the letter. And then we'll come back and see if anybody wants to share, but it's absolutely okay not to, because these can be really personal letters, so no pressure there. So enjoy your moment of writing and reflection, and I'll let you know when we come back. And obviously, if you have any questions, definitely let me know or put them in the chat. And you should hear some music, hopefully. This is from a playlist on Spotify that's called Music for Plants. And plants love to listen to music too.
Tour.
So welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your writing experience. And I will just offer a moment in case anybody feels inclined. Again, no pressure, but we do have time. Maybe if one person wants to share, maybe even two, depending. But I just wanted to put that space in there in case anyone wants to share their letter to their landscape.
I'd like to share.
Oh, thank you, Miss Pack.
So I wrote a poem, and it's called Sunny. I'll start, and it's short because I don't want to take up too much time. That tickles, that's tough. I can't swim, but I'm tough. I stand strong in the complexion you helped to create. Your sun rays glisten over my confident shape. Kiss me all over. Your vitamin keeps me healthy. Just know in every season, you're always my bestie. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's show some love to Miss Pack. Thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. We'll offer the space to anyone else. Miss Peck broke the ice for us. If anybody else wants to share.
Okay, I'll share a little bit because I didn't get to share some art in the gallery itself. I wrote something very little and it probably doesn't make sense. I want to continue it, but it's all just pretty rhymey. So I don't have a title for it. It's just a little thing. So, a breath, a breeze, the music of the trees, surrounded, I'm grounded, I'm rooted in the deep. Ocean symphony, the earth's heartbeat. In silence, I'm seen, one with serenity. And that's it.
Thank you. There's some love to Selena. Thank you. That was awesome. And if there's one more brave soul, we could offer it. If not, we can close out the activity.
I can read. I'm just competing with my background. So bear with us. Okay. You are my safety. I find comfort wrapped in the bosom of your earth. As winds brush against my shoulder, I am reminded I can feel. You are my peace. Your waves crash against the stones that support me, and I am reminded I can hear. You are my awakening. The light of the sun peeks through clouds of indifference, brightening the dark places, casting glare that can sometimes be difficult to bear, but still I look and I am reminded I have vision. You are my air, all encompassing. I breathe you. I huff and I puff, inhale, exhale, release again each breath, crisper than the next, independent, connected, intertwined, and I'm reminded I can taste.
Let's show some love to Sherry. Chills. You're an
We
artist and a
have a
poet.
poetry slam. We need to have karaoke night. Shay, God, man, you almost made me cry with that. That was beautiful. And Selena, yours too. Oh my. And Tishma, I got you, Sonny.
Thank you, everybody. If you liked this activity, I have a takeaway. Part 2 of this. And the part 2 is to be the landscape and respond to your letter or your poem. And I did this part, and this was actually really surprising. I didn't think it was going to be. And when I did the second part of this activity, it was really surprising. So that could be some homework. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant. That's brilliant, Dani. Thank you so much. Everyone, let's give it up for Dani. Taking us peacefully into our weekend. I hope that the winds die down. And I want to give a huge round of applause to all of our artists again. I know John is not here. Many had stepped out. But listen, thank you all for supporting this day. Every day is Earth Day, and we need to think about what are some things we can do at Good Shepherd Services to continue this. So just FYI, someone from Family Foster Care is spearheading an initiative as a pilot program with facilities to see if we can become even much more greener at Good Shepherd. So more to come around that. I want to thank you all. Selena, thanks for being my co-host. Dani, thank you for coming through. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, stay kind. Mwah! Just love y'all.
You can unmute yourself and say bye. You can unmute yourself.
Yes,
Please
unmute and
do.
go. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Woo! We did. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. Also, that was awesome. I love that activity. That was so cool.
Oh, good.
Yes. I thought it was like the part 2 is interesting.
Yeah.
Like you could tell some group to come back and like that's really great. You're like full of like activities.
Lisa, what do you think? You did okay?
Yeah, I am so not talented, but I was not surprised in those types of ways. But I was not surprised that Shari was going to drop like a full poem. Shari is one of the most talented people I have ever had the honor and privilege of working with on a regular basis. Selena, the fact that you were like, I just have a couple sentences. And I'm like, I DM'd Celia and I was like, yeah, I wrote a love note to Hawaii because I want to go there.
Yes.
And it took me the entire 8 minutes just to write like 5 sentences. And Selena, Shari, and Miss Peck all wrote like publishable spoken word and poetry. I'm like, I'm out of here, y'all. All I can do is draw stick figures.
We need a poetry slam.
Yeah,
and
I think that's what this is showing. We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's talent out here and in here.
Because you know who wasn't here that probably would have dropped something too? Melody Ruiz from the Bronx program.
Oh, I heard her before. I heard her in
super
another
talented.
space.
When is National Poet? Wait, guys, April was National Poetry Month, I think.
I think.
Oh, God.
Next year.
Next year, we gotta do,
Listen,
like,
April.
April's got a lot. April's got a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
We're just gonna have to do
just,
a
we
one-off.
just might have to create a Good Shepherd Poetry Week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will do
I
that.
agree.
And before Selena finishes her GSV year with us, I really want to plan a karaoke month. Yeah, we know we're trying to keep her in other ways, but you know.
Selena's gonna finish her year and then become a staff member. I told her that the day I met her.
But
I told her
listen.
that the day I met her. So.
Yes. And listen. So we need a karaoke night, and then a real karaoke night when things are better, like a real club karaoke night.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would love that. That would be great.
We also need a lip sync night because y'all don't want to hear me sing. I mean, I will make you laugh and entertain you, but you really want to just see me lip sync instead.
We'll do like a combined night. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Yes. Yes, I'm all for it. Happy to DJ.
Yes.
Listen, you guys stay safe. I'm gonna end this call and
Yeah, you gotta go plant trees.